Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Rest-Based Living podcast. In this episode, we're actually going to explore what rest-based living is. What does that even mean? Spoiler alert, rest-based living is defined as an intentional lifestyle that uses nutrition and movement to keep stress hormones low and to keep the metabolism balanced. So we're going to talk about what this means and why it's so important, especially when it comes to weight loss, specifically for women. But before we dive in there, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Lene Urban. I am a nutrition and lifestyle coach, and I am dedicated to teaching really busy professional career women how to eliminate stress, how to transform their health, and how to lose weight through rest. In the description of this podcast, in the description box below, I'm going to provide a link to a quiz that I created. And the name of the quiz is, What Are Your Stressors? We're going to be talking about the 4 primary stressors today. And after you're done listening to the podcast, if you want to find out what your stressors are, if you want to find out where you fall in terms of being able to manage these particular primary stressors, then I want you to click the link in the description box to take that quiz. Okay, so as we dive into now what rest-based living means, what that is, and why it's so important, I want to share how I came to discover the concept of rest-based living. Firstly, I am a wife. I'm a mom of 3 young girls, ages 12, 8, and 5. And yes, that does mean that my life is incredibly busy and incredibly crazy all of the time, not some of the time, all of the time. And before I became a nutrition and lifestyle coach, I spent almost 10 years working in a corporate environment, working in an educational environment for both for-profit and nonprofit education. And it was very difficult for me during those years that I was working full-time, taking care of these little girls, taking care of my home, being a wife, being a mom, being a daughter, being a sister, taking care of all those things. It was very difficult for me to find the strategies, to find the time, to find the will in order to pursue my own weight loss goals, to pursue my health and fitness goals. And it wasn't until I experienced some health scares in my family, and it wasn't until I started experiencing some personal health scares, that I woke up and I said, there has to be a way for me to be able to pursue my weight loss, my health and fitness goals, but a way for me to pursue them without it disrupting my lifestyle so much. A strategy that will fit into this busy, crazy schedule that I have, and a strategy that's actually sustainable, a strategy that I can actually continue to follow even after I've achieved all of my goals. So that led me down sort of this rabbit hole of research for sustainable practices, for sustainable strategies for weight loss, specifically for women like me that didn't have the time, the energy, the motivation. And what I discovered in my initial research is that there are very specific biochemical reasons behind why we women, why we lose weight, why we gain weight, why we lose in certain areas of our body, why we gain in certain areas of our body. For example, there is a biochemical reason behind why it is that some women carry their weight in their belly versus in their hips, butt, and thighs. There's also a biochemical reason why when we women pursue weight loss, why we seem to lose weight faster in some areas of our body than in others. And once I discovered that there's a biochemical reason behind all of this, that's when I was able to learn my own body, to learn what was going to work specifically for my metabolism, for my body type, and for my lifestyle, that eventually led to me, within the span of 5 months, losing almost 40 pounds, dropping 7 dress sizes, and dropping 12% of my body fat. And I did that all without doing the painful cardio. I did that all only working out 15 minutes a day, 3 days a week at the most. I did that all without counting calories, all without counting macros. I did that all without giving up the foods that I love and starving myself and depriving myself. When I focused on the hormones, when I focused on the stress levels and keeping those levels low and keeping my metabolism balanced and keeping all those hormones balanced, the weight loss just happened. It happened naturally and it happened effortlessly. And what I discovered during that period where the weight was just flying off after 8 years of trying every diet and exercise program under the sun, what I finally understood is that there are lifestyle changes that have to be made in order to achieve the weight loss goals or the health and fitness goals that we want to achieve. But I know we hear that all the time. It's not a diet. It's not exercise. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. But what does that specifically mean? What I came to discover is that it's a lifestyle actually means that what you're doing is you are manipulating every area of your life. You are creating the boundaries that you need to create in order to keep these stress levels low and in order to prioritize your health and fitness. So at the beginning of the podcast, I mentioned the link to the stressor quiz that I have in the description of this podcast below. And I created that quiz based on the 4 primary stressors that if they are constantly elevated, it doesn't matter what we're doing with our diet, it doesn't matter what we're doing with our exercise, we will not be able to sustain any results if these particular stressors are constantly elevated. And that is because these stressors, when they are high, when they're constantly elevated, they are responsible for the hormonal and the metabolic imbalances that keep weight on, that prevent weight from being able to come off and to stay off. What are these 4 stressors? They are sleep, movement, nutrition, and exercise. So when I talk about the fact that I was able to adopt a rest-based living lifestyle, what exactly does that mean? That means that I was able to create the boundaries and make the sacrifices in every single area of my life that kept these stressors elevated. I created the boundaries and I made the sacrifices in every area of my life that kept these primary stressors at an elevated point. And what I observed when I adopted this rest-based living lifestyle, what I observed is that people that struggle with their weight, people that struggle with achieving their weight loss goals or achieving their health and fitness goals, it's not necessarily the fact that they're struggling with the diet or the exercise. What they're struggling with is creating those boundaries. They're struggling with actually taking the step to make the sacrifices that they have to make in order to keep those stress levels low. Why is this so important to me? Why am I so passionate about this? Because when I had my health scare that led to this rabbit hole of research, and I was able to stumble upon rest-based living, the concept of rest-based living, it's so important to me because as a wife, as a mom, as someone who has a plethora of people in her life who she loves. I have a lot of people in my life that I love, that I want to be around for. What I discovered was that if I didn't start taking the time to take care of myself, then I was not going to be around for the long haul. I wasn't going to be around to see my girls grow up and to see my girls start families of their own. I was not going to be around long enough to grow old with my husband. I wasn't going to be here to be physically and mentally capable to care for the people that I loved if I did not start prioritizing my own health and fitness. And so that was the epiphany that I came to that led me to finally, after 8 years of trying every single diet and exercise program out there on the market, trying and failing over and over again, it was this epiphany that went off that said, okay, now it's not just about changing the way that I look anymore. This is about wanting to live. This is about wanting to be here for my family, to be here for my girls. So we think, and I can say this boldly based on conversations that I've had with women, based on research that I've done on why women in particular struggle with self-care and why we struggle with taking the time and space to take care of ourselves. A lot of us believe that taking time away from our family to go to the gym, or taking time away from the people that we love to go for a walk, or to do whatever it is that we have to do to prioritize our health, a lot of us either subconsciously or consciously believe that that's selfishness, that taking the little bit of time that we have when we're already spending sometimes over 40 hours a week at work, when we're already spending most of our mental and emotional energy at work, and then have to muster up even more of that energy to love our husbands, to love our spouses, to love our families, to take care of our homes and our kids, we sometimes feel that there shouldn't be any of that extra time, that we shouldn't take even just a little bit of that time to take care of ourselves and to care for ourselves. But I would like to present this idea to you. And don't shut me off just yet. Don't shut me out. Don't write me off when I say this. But I want to present this idea that I really believe that those feelings of wanting to avoid taking care of ourselves so that we can devote all the time we have to caring for the people that we love, I actually believe that that's selfishness. I don't believe that that's selflessness. And why do I believe that? I believe that sacrificing ourselves in the immediate term in order to just be around for the people that we love, I believe that we are just in that immediate term, that we're just gratifying them with our presence, that we are providing that immediate and that instant gratification of our presence to them. Whereas if we were actually being selfless, we would say to ourselves, it's going to require this time away from you for me to invest into myself, for me to pour back into myself so that I can be my very best for you. That to me is selflessness. That's what I truly believe selflessness is. Selflessness is giving the very best of you to the people that you love. But that can only be done if you are taking the time to pour into yourself and to care for yourself. So being intentional about self-care, being intentional about prioritizing your health and fitness, this is the essence of what rest-based living is. So how do we learn how to do this? How do we learn how to be intentional? How do we learn how to create the boundaries that we have to create? How do we learn how to make the sacrifices in our life that we have to sacrifice in order to keep those stress levels low and in order to prioritize our health and fitness? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this podcast. That's what the Rest-Based Living podcast is all about. We, in this podcast, we are going to learn how to be intentional about adopting this style of living, about prioritizing ourselves, prioritizing our health and fitness, eliminating our stress, transforming our health, and using rest-based living as the avenue to achieve our weight loss and our health and fitness goals. Question for you: where do you stand right now? Where do you stand in terms of your primary stressors? Where do you stand with your sleep? Where do you stand with your nutrition, your exercise, your movement? Are you prioritizing those things in your life right now? Have you created the boundaries and the space, and have you made the sacrifices to keep these stressors to a minimum? If you don't know and you want to find out, then once again, in the description box of this podcast, there is a link to the primary stressor quiz. Very quick quiz. I want you to take it. You'll get your results immediately. You'll find out immediately what your primary stressors are and whether or not you're doing currently what you're supposed to be doing to keep those stressors to a minimum. So how did you like today's, the first episode of the Rest-Based Living podcast? I would love to hear a comment. I'd love to see a comment. I'd love to get some feedback on how you felt about this first episode. If there was any part of this episode, of this particular episode of the podcast episode, if there's any part that resonated with you, then just go ahead and click the like button just to let me know, just to send me that feedback. And then next week, I am going to be back with the second episode, same time, same place. Once again, you are listening to the Rest-Based Living podcast, and I cannot wait to see you next time.